Okay, good evening, class. Hey, this is the video for the three-part test that includes the seller net proceeds. It includes the gross rent multiplier, and then it also includes the calculations that, excuse me, the calculations that we did for seller net proceeds, gross rent multiplier, and then we also incorporated some commission questions. So this is going to be the video that's going to cover those three topics. And I sent out this, and then I wanted everybody to have them back to me by 9 p.m. today. And I wanted to get this video up as soon as possible. So it's not going to take me too long to go through the videos. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me start sharing my screen with you. And you can see my screen there. Okay. So we're going to start with the first question. This is a seller net proceeds question. And really what this is it's very, very basic math. And it's really just putting all of the different costs together. When you think of seller net proceeds, again, you're thinking about all of the different things that the seller would have to pay to net a certain amount. And so that's really what you're trying to look at, especially in this first problem. So just reading the problem, Jenny sold her house for $175,000. She is paying 6% commission fee. I always read the question in its entirety to make sure that I understand all the components of the question, and then I'll start sparsing it out to the different lines that I want to create for this type of question. And this is something that I recommend you do that when you're studying for the tests and studying these type of questions, is just come up with a way that you do these problems. So that way, when you run into a problem, you can kind of already have in your mind how you want to kind of like, go through the problem when you're taking a test. So let's again start from the beginning. Number one is Jenny sold her house for $175,000. She is paying 6% commission fee and has closing costs of $6,500. She will also pay off her current mortgage of $67,900 and a $12,300 second mortgage. How much did Jenny net on the sale of her home? So let's go ahead and list out the different things, and then on the other side of these, we're going to come up with the equation. Commission, and we're going to put that at 6%. Commission at 6% is actually, let me just actually type the word out at 6%. That's one part of the question, and we'll put a little equal sign here. And then we're going to go to the next, reading the question out, and we're typing everything out. Closing costs. Is at, give me 1 second here. So closing cost is at $6,500. And then we have mortgage payoff, first mortgage. Let's call that first mortgage because that's what it is. It's our first mortgage, the first mortgage position. And so that's what we're going to call it. And that equals $67,900. And then we have a second mortgage, all right? And that is $12,300. Now, those are all known costs. The last three that we typed in, the closing cost, the commission, and let's make sure we got everything. So she has the first mortgage, $67,900, $12,300 second mortgage, and $6,500 for the closing costs. Now, the unknown is that we have to figure out what 6% of the $175,000. And so that's just an easy math calculation where you're going to take the $175,000 and you're going to multiply that times 6%, or 0.06%, and you're going to come up with a number of 10,500. So that's going to be that number for this line. So again, 10,500. And so the total down here of everything is going to be the commission. Again, that's 10,500. That's your pay, and probably a co-broke that's going to be associated with that. And then you got the $6,500 closing costs, and then we got 67,900 on the first mortgage, and then we have another 12,300 on the second mortgage. That totals $97,200. Right, that's not the answer, but that is what all of her expenses total before we can tell her what her net is for this problem or this question. It's $97,200 here. And I always like to double check, especially when I'm doing videos like this. So we have 10,500 plus 6,500 plus 67,900 plus 12,300 equals 97,200. Now we're going to take 97,200 from the total sales price of our house. So the next line is going to be the answer. Sales price equals 175. And that's going to be minus her expenses, minus expenses of 97,200 equals a total net of, and let's go ahead and go to the calculator. We go to the calculator, 175 minus 97,200. And this young lady will be netting 77,800. That's the answer to that question. All right. And even with all of the steps, it really only took us about a couple minutes to get to that. And you really want to have confidence when you're doing these right now, because at this point, if you're still struggling with figuring out what you need to do with these, you need to just get with me, and then we can do like a quick one-on-one on some of these questions, and then I'll be more than happy to sit down with you and explain and just try to go over the steps that you're missing, because this is really only 2 steps. You got to figure out the commission, and then you got to take all the other expenses and add them up and then subtract it from what the property sold for. So we're going to move to the next question. And on this one, let me see if I can move that up just a little bit here. Okay. All right. Let's see if I can get it up there just to save it. Okay. Okay, I guess that's cool right there. Sheena wants to sell her home. She must pay off her existing mortgage of $177,000 and pay $6,100 or pay $6,100 in closing costs. If she pays a 6% commission, what is the minimum offer she can accept? Okay, so we have a definite unknown here, because we are trying to come up with the minimum offer that she can accept. And the best way that I can explain doing this is to treat it like this last problem. So let's read that again. Sheena wants to sell her home. She must pay off her existing mortgage and pay $6,100 in closing costs. If she pays a 6% commission, that shouldn't be a period there. Let's go ahead and do that. What is the minimum offer she can accept? So let's go ahead and write our question out like we did it. So we know our sales price, or let's put commission, same way, commission equals 6% of some number. We don't know that number yet. And now we start looking for her expenses. Well, we have our first mortgage. We know that first mortgage is $177,000, right? So I need to write mortgage back there. And then we know that her closing cost is, what did it say, $6,100? closing costs. Now, the unknown is the commission. So we still have to figure out the commission, but and like up here, it didn't give us the sales price. We're looking for the minimum price that she can sell. But we know that the minimum is going to be these two numbers, the first mortgage plus this, because we know that this number has to represent 94% of some number, because you got the 94 plus the 6, that equals 100%. You can't get greater than 100%. So we know if we added up 177 and 61, that represents 94% of our number, right? So that equation, so what we would do is we would take the closing cost of $177,000 plus the 6,100 in closing costs, right? That equals, what does that equal? I didn't do the math. And I'm actually doing these questions as I'm talking these questions out while we're doing this. And we're going to go plus, what is that, 6,100. And that equals 183,100. So our number, this is 94, this number represents 94% of our number, because we know our commission came out of this number to leave us this. It's kind of backing your way into it. So the next step is to figure out what that number is 94% of, 94% of. So we would take that number, which is 100. Oh, hold on, let me take a step back. The way I get 94% is because we got to deduct the commission, that 6% from 100. So really that's another step. We got to deal with the commission. So we got to deal with the commission, and how you deal with that is that, hold on, let me see here, deal with the commission. Or I'll just put, instead of deal, let's put solve for commission. And that equation is simply, we know that we know that our number is 100%, and we need to take 6% out of that. So we're going to go 100% minus 6% equals 94%. Now you heard me talking about that number 94%, but I didn't show you how I got to that number. And so now you want to, now this is the thing. We know this number right here represents 94% of the number that we need, right? So this number 183,100 is 94% of the number that we need, because we know that our number that we need is minus the 6%. And so the equation for that is we need to figure out what that number is, and all we do is simply take the 183,100 divided by 94%. Okay, divided by 94%, or let's just put this 0.94%. However you want to, and it's hard putting a decimal point there for me, because either it's a decimal or a percentage. It can't typically be both, but it's okay. 0.94, that's a decimal. That is in a sense the way that you would represent that. So with that answer, let's look at the answer. Let's go ahead and bring up the calculator. We're going to take that number divided by 94%. What we doing? 183,100 divided by 0.94. And that's going to equal a number, and I'm going to type the whole number out here. It's going to be a number of $194,787. $194,780. What did I say? $787.23. 23 cents. We really don't need to worry about the cents. So I'm going to just put round it. So our answer for this question is I'm going to give you an example of when somebody would give you that scenario, this scenario. Say, for instance, someone that just wanted to break even with the house. They didn't want to walk away with anything, and they just needed to pay off their first mortgage for whatever reason. And they just said, "Hey, I just need to know what's the least that what the most that I can or what I can sell my property for, just netting nothing." And sometimes people need to do that because they might be in some financial trouble and they need to just say, "Okay, well, I'm getting ready to, I'm in some default, I'm in an issue. So maybe I don't have to sell my property short, but how much is all of the expenses going to cost me to just break even on the thing?" And so that may be something that you might have to do with a person to try to figure that out. And that's the way that you figure it out. Hey, if I charge you a 6% commission and these are your closing costs, this is the number that you got to be at to get to break even at zero, right? So that's something, let me turn that red too. So that's the answer to that question. All right, so we're going to move to the next question. Let me see here, move this up here. Now, this is a layered question. This is one of those questions where you have to figure out multiple commissions on this one, and so this is that question where you have to figure out the graduated commission, and that's really what this is. And so what you're going to do with this one is you're going to read the question, obviously, first. A house sold for $685,000, and if there is a graduated commission means that it's kind of tiered. There's a certain amount of that purchase price is going to sell for, that's going to pay a commission of a certain percentage, then another portion, and perhaps even another portion. On this one, there's 3 portions. So if a house sold for $685,000, and if there is a graduated commission of 7% on the first 200,000, 4% on the next 200,000, and 2% on the remainder, what are the closing costs? And there are closing costs of 15,000. How much would the seller net? Okay, so let's start with the first thing that we're going to figure out is the commission on the first. On the first part of the question, excuse me. All right, so that's just going to be, the first thing we want to do is write down the sales price, so we can remember what that is. So that's 685,000. Let me put price back here. All right, so we know that. And then we're going to write down the commission splits. Not the commission splits, I'm sorry, I'll be saying that, and that's not really what I mean. Let's commission tiers, if you will. So the first tier is the 7%. So the first 200,000 at 7% equals how much? Well, that's pretty easy math. It's going to be 14,000, but I'm going to always want to make sure we get our calculator out. Sometimes we might not. We might be slipping. So I'm going to take $200,000 times 0.07 or 7%, and that's 14,000. All right, so 14,000 on the first 200. Then the second 200. I'm going to type second. Let me put a dollar sign there. Always make sure everything like that. So second 200,000. What did we say? First 200, 4% on the next 200. So that's easy math as well. So at 4%, that's going to equal, get our calculator out, was 4% of 200,000. We know it's 800,000, but again, just set up good habits when you're doing these questions. You can't afford to miss any math questions. So it's best just to utilize a calculator. Even if you know it, it's just a good habit to just start doing that. And then we got the third tier, or the remainder, right? And we're going to put the remainder is how much left? 285,000. And we're going to say at what, 2%? And that equals, let's do the math here. We're going, what's 2% of 285,000? 285,000 times 2% is 5,700. All right, so let me check that again, just do it a different way. Okay, 5,700. So now we got that taken care of. And now we got to account for some closing costs. Well, in this question, it says our closing cost is 15,000. So let's write closing costs here equals 15K. So now what we're going to do is add up everything. And what that is the equation pretty much is, and I'm going to write this down here because this is, we want to make sure it's going to be 14,000 plus 8,000 plus 5,700 plus 15,000. That's our closing cost. And now we need to read through the question and see if there's any other cost. And there's not. So let's add up those numbers. We got 14,000. That's the first 200,000. 8,000. That's the second 200,000. And then 5,700. That's the remaining 2% of the remaining balance, plus another $15,000. And that's the closing cost. So that'll be a total of $42,700 of expenses. So that's 42,700. This gentleman owns his house right out. And those are the expenses. And we're going to put in expenses here for this deal. And then the answer would be, so we need to deduct that from that 42,700 from the sales price. And that's how we get to our number. So that equation would be sales price minus expenses equals, well, let's just go to represent that in actual numbers. Sales price of 685,000 minus 42,700 equals what? Get our calculator out. Gonna be a good day. And this seller is gonna be able to enjoy his afternoon walk once he get this news. So he got 42,700 coming out of that, and that proceeds. This is commission and the closing costs. So on that deal, he'll net on his house 642,000. $642,300 on that deal, and that's the answer. 642,300 on that. And I'll put that in bold and color it. And color this here and this bold. Okay. Gross rent multiplier. Let me start another sheet for that. Did I have that there? Okay, that shouldn't be there. All right, well, we'll go with the commission first then. But I'm going to start that on another sheet. All right, so this is the commission. So giving you a little bit of background on this is something you really want to pay attention to. because the commission is really how you get paid. There's no other way to explain it. I mean, you're going to have to always be able to figure out commission, and you're always going to have to be able to figure out your commission split with your broker. And another thing about the commission that we really hadn't talked about a whole lot about is that there are going to be broker fees outside of your commission, like E&O insurance. You might have some office fees coming out of your commission check. And so you really want to understand that cost. I'll give you an example. One of the main reasons why, well, the main reason why I left my previous broker was because I ran into such a wonderful brokerage that that I'm with right now called Brick House Realty. And that's one of the main reasons why I left that brokerage, because I had some like-minded people that I really wanted to get to know a little bit better and utilize my human resources to help do some of the things that I'm currently doing, like helping you guys with this test. But one of the other reasons is that I was on an 80-20 split with them, right? And I was promised that I was going to get to 90% once I achieved $15,000 in net commissions. And over the past couple of years, I had like tripled that. And I still hadn't seen that be actualized in my commission check. So I went to my broker and was like, hey, what's going on with this? And he explained some stuff that I just wasn't feeling. And ultimately I left. But what happened was, it's even with me being on that 80-20 split, I was only really actually getting about 72.5% of my money. So now here it is, I'm on an 80-20 split. And say, for instance, I sell a house and my commission is, let's just say, $5,000. I'm supposed to get a check for $4,000. My broker keeps $1,000. Now, mind you, I never went into the office, ever went into the office. The only time I went into the office is to get my commission check. So anything that I was getting charged at the office, I had that at home. I had, signs. I had my own signs made up and everything. So I really didn't need to utilize any of the broker's resources, especially not anything at the office, because I have a pretty nice home office set up here at my house. So longer story shorter, I started to really look at my checks, because I'm like, man, I'm about to get ready to get to that $15,000 number. And I noticed just looking at my numbers, I said, man, this I'm not getting anywhere near 80% of my money. Now, remember, I didn't go to the office. Okay, E&O insurance. If you're gonna take that much out of E&O insurance, I'll just carry my own E&O insurance. There's other, but a lot of brokers may not let you do that, but because they don't know if you actually got insurance and you're maintaining a policy. But I kind of know the game, and it kind of felt like I was getting an additional 8% taken out of my check for some miscellaneous things that I had no clue about. So I'm saying this to say that even if you're on even if you feel as though you got an 80-20 split, you really want to understand how you get your commission, because that's really how you get paid. That's the only way you get paid. Now, there are some other things that you can do in real estate when you're selling real estate as a realtor that you can make money on. And I can explain that later, but you really want to stay on top of the commission, because that's how you get paid, period. It ain't no other way for me to say it. So, the first question, let's go ahead and handle this commission question. The first question here is, a property sold for $555,000. The total commission was charged $29,000. 6% was charged on the first $300,000. Okay, what is the percentage of the remainder? So this is a pretty standard question. You got to figure out, you kind of got to set this question up. It's very similar. Once you really understand the steps in these questions, it's really pretty simple to get to the answer. So the first thing that we do is we need to figure out what 6% of $555,000 is. And some of this stuff is repetitive. So the first thing is to calculate calculate the commission for the first $300,000 at 6%, and we'll put at 6%, and that's going to equal something. What does that equal? Again, now these are pretty decent numbers. We know it's going to be 18,000, but we still want to do the math. So 300,000 times 0.06 of commission equals 18,000, right? So we're going to write that down or type that in. Now, the next step is we don't know, we have an unknown. We don't know what the percentage is on the next, what is that, 255,000. So we got to figure that out. So we need to calculate the, calculate the commission for the remaining balance of what is it, 255,000 at an unknown percentage. And that's what we're solving for. All right, so the way that you get to that unknown percentage is what we're going to do is we're going to take the remainder. So what we need to do is we need to subtract, let's here do this. We're going to subtract the known commission from the known commission for the 6% from the actual total commission charge. So we're going to subtract known commission of, or subtract total, let's just say total commission. Just follow the order of operation. Total commission from known commission and that would be subtract 29,000. I'm sorry. Subtract 18,000 from 29,000. And that equals 11,000. Now, we need to see what that $11,000 is the percentage on the remainder left. Now we got $11,000 and we have $11,000 and we have a total left of 255,000. So we need to figure out what $11,000 is of $255,000. So that equation is simple. You go 11,000 divided by 255, and that'll give us our answer. And so let's do it on the calculator. So we go 11,000 divided by 255. And that equals, they paid a total commission of 4.31%, right? So that's going to be, the answer is 4.31% rounded. And that's the answer. Let's see here. Answer equals 4.31%. All right. Now, these are the questions that you probably won't really have to deal a whole lot with, but these are good questions because they involve 3 steps, right? And so these weren't that difficult. I think is just doing and dealing with the right numbers in the order that you need to deal with them. So let's read the question. The salesperson earns $200,000 per year. They're doing some good sales and whatever they're doing, they're making $200,000 per year. If he or she receives 80% of the commission of a 6% commission paid from his firm on his sales, what is his monthly sales volume? Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is figure out the commission volume. That's what his commission volume is, right? All right, so we're going to take, to do that, we're going to take a couple numbers in here. Let's read that question over again. A salesperson earns 200,000 per year. And why is there a decimal? 200,000 per year. If he receives 80% of the 6% commissions paid to his firm on his sales, what is his monthly sales? What is his monthly dollar value on sales? So again, step one is figure out the commission volume. All right, and that equation to figure out the commission volume is simple. We're going to take this $200,000 and we're going to divide that by 6%, okay? All right, so that's what we're going to do. And that equation is going to be 200,000 divided by 6, was it 6%? Yeah, 6%. And that's going to equal the number. So let's do that math. And we have 200,000 divided by 0.06. So he is doing, it's a pretty number, $3,333,333. That's the actual answer to that question. Not the actual answer, but that's the answer to the first part. And we always need to put it rounded because we're not gonna change that last number in this instance because it's less than 4. I mean, it's less than 5. And so that's rounded. Okay. The next step that we're going to do is figure out the annual commission, right? So we know that this number here represents 80% of the total amount of the sales volume, right? So the annual commission volume we need to figure out next. All right, so what we're going to do that, we got the numbers. We already know the numbers. We know that this is 80% of what the number that we need to figure out what his annual sales volume is, right? And so because this is him receiving that number, right? That's what this is here. We know that number's that. So we need to take 3,333,000 and $333,333, and we need to figure out what that number is 80% of, and then that's his annual sales volume. So step 2 would be figure out the annual commission volume, and that's what we've done. That's what we're about to do. I'm sorry. Commission volume. All right, and so to do that, we're going to take the 300, and we know that number is 80% of the number that we need to be at. So we're going to take $3,333,333 divided by 80%, or 0.8. And that equals a number. So let's see what that number is. So we're going to say $3,333,333,300 divided by 0.8. It equals $4,166,666. All right. So we said 4,166,000. $4,166,666 rounded. Whenever you round, you got to just let people know that you round, and it's just something a habit that I picked up in school. And so that's that number. Now we know that this number is our annual number, so the next step is a pretty easy one, and that's to figure out what the monthly sales volume. And we know that there's 12 months in a year, so we just simply take that number and divide it by 12. But the step 3 is to figure out the monthly sales value excuse me, that equation is the 4,166,666 divided by 12. All right, let's figure that out on our calculator. Divide that by 12. All right. That's going to be $347,222 rounded equals 342. Let me just make sure. $347,000, $222. And all right, so that's that question. That's that. Oh, let me put the answer down here. Answer equals 347,222 rounded. So highlight that. Yeah, sure. So hopefully you guys are doing real good on this. This is some fairly simple math computations once you get the hang of it. And once you understand how to break down the question, then you know, it gets to be fairly easy. So the next one is going to be a question about how much would the sales agent earns, I believe, the commission in terms of commission in this deal. Okay, so Pedro, I'm sorry, I'm on the grocery multiplier. All right, so this one is going to say Max's home sold for $975,000. The total commission was 5%. Of this 5%, 1/2 commission goes to his office, 1/2 commission goes to the selling office, and the agent receives 75% of his office's commission. How much will the agent earn? So this is really a question like what I was talking to you ladies about in regards to figuring out how you get paid, because this is something that you would have to do. This is, you know, this is the essence of everything that we've been saying. And so this is a pretty simple question, though. What we got to do is figure out the total commission, number one. Right. So if it's 5% of 975,000, what is that number? So we're going to go sales price equals $975,000. All right. Commission on that equals $975,000 times 5%. And that equals a number. We know it's going to be somewhere sub 50,000, but not too much less than it. All right, so 48,750 is the total commission on that thing. Pretty nice payday for this young man. Pretty nice payday. All right. So now we know that that's the total commission earned. Now it says that the selling officer split the commission 50-50 or 1/2 and 1/2. But again, on these, you really want to write that out. So the next step 2, is to figure out the selling and the listing agent cut. And I'm really typing fast and I'm making a lot of mistakes. But the equation is going to be simple. And that equation is taking the $48,750, right? And you're going to multiply that by 50%. You're going to get a number. And that number, I don't know what that number is. I haven't figured it out yet. So we're going to take that divided by 2. And then we're going to get a number of 24,375. All right. And that goes to each side. And so you're going to put that goes through 24,375 goes to the listing office, and 24,375 goes to the selling office. All right. Let's do that, but go to the selling. I don't know what this thing is doing, but whatever. I'll just leave it like that. All right, so that's going to be out of the margin a little bit, but I'm not about to sit here and play around with that. But so that goes to the 24,375 goes to one side, 24,375 goes to the other side. And so now it's time to figure out what you get paid out of that. This, like I said, this is the essence of how you get paid. So the next step is to figure out, step 3, figure out the sales agent commission. All right, and that equation is, now go back up to the question, how much does that make 75% of that number? So we're going to do, the equation is the 24,375 times the commission of 75%, and that equals a number. And so this young man or young lady will be walking away with, let me get to that point, 375. And that's going to be, that young man or young lady will be walking away with a check for $18,281 rounded. Again, that's $18,281 rounded. That's the answer to that question. All right, let's go ahead and do this. It's still bothering me. Sorry. Whatever, I'm not. Look at it. So that's the answer, though. Answer. $18,281 rounded. And that's going to go to the sales commission or sales agent, that sales commission on that. All right, so we're going to go there. That's the answer there. All right, so we're done with those commission questions. You really are going to want to know that. It will be on the test. And then the last one we will do with the gross rent multiplier. Now the gross rent multiplier, again, this is an easy calculation. You probably won't be using that much in the field unless you're dealing with income producing properties. But it's just it's still something that you can use to be a little bit more savvier when it comes to dealing with your clients, and when you're dealing with like just income producing properties. Now, the weakness of the gross rent multiplier again is that it does not account for any expenses. So if you see expenses in the question, those are just, it's just layering the question with unnecessary words, because the gross rent multiplier, right in the name, it says it's gross rent multiplier. It's not saying gross rent minus expenses multiplier. And so you don't account for gross rent multipliers in there. And so some expenses, again, when I was telling you guys, you ladies, about this when we were doing the analysis, is that the gross rent multiplier is really only three things that you can look for. You can look for the actual multiplier itself, right? You can look for what the annual annual gross rent is, right? Or what you can do is you can look for what is going to be the actual the gross rents. All right. So we got or the sales price. I'm sorry, the sales price, annual gross rents, and then the multiplier. So those are really the only three things that you can do. And I think we have one of each in this analysis. And so the number one thing too is with the gross rent multiplier, you want to have enough of a sample size of comparable properties. Remember, your sample size in something like this, in my opinion, to get some good information, is to be able to get a sample size of about at least 5 properties that are similar, 4 or 5 properties that are similar, and then you'll come up with a decent gross rent. Now, when you're doing the multiplier, if you have any of the properties are what considered to be an outlier, typically anything that's more than 1 or 2 percentage or points than the others is typically something that may skew your data. And so you'll have to clean that data and get some of those outliers or atypical numbers about it at sample size. Now, it may hurt you because you may only have 5 sales, but I'd rather have 3 similar properties to come up with a multiplier than 5, and 2 of them, 1 of them represent the very, very, very low end or the very, very, very high end on the other extreme. So I would rather have 3 really comparable properties than to have 5, and 2 of them are really not indicative of what the market is doing in terms of income producing properties. So the first question that you're being asked is going to say, hey, calculate this gross rent multiplier, right? And again, this was a layered question because you don't account for expenses in a gross rent multiplier. It says Pedro owns a property that is valued at $850,000 and generates an annual income of $96,000. It should have said Pedro building expense there. My bad. I'm gonna change that. Pedro's building expense is $228 per month, leading to a net operating income of $62,500. Calculate the gross rent multiplier. This whole sentence right here could be completely out of there, except for the calculate the gross rent multiplier part. Again, it's gross rent multiplier. It's not gross minus expense rent multiplier. So, and that's really the weakness of this analysis, because it doesn't account for expenses. So I've probably heard me comment about, like, one of the biggest things that you got to account for when you're dealing with income producing properties is the level of competency with the management. One management team may know how to manage a property totally different than someone else, in which one management team may be very competent. They know the building, they know all the drawbacks, they know how to manage the operating expenses at the building, and they can do a better job in getting a better return on the property, and that the expenses will be lower. So then that means that's more money in the owner's pocket. Whereas you may have somebody that don't know how to manage a building, maybe for whatever reason they're not managing the building correctly, and the property is just losing money because the expenses are high. So in this equation right here is really simple. We're going to just take the value divided by the gross rents to get our multiplier. And that equation is, let's just leave that bold, equals, what's the sales price? So we have a $850,000 sales price divided by the gross rents, which is $96,000. And that's our multiplier. And that equals the answer. So that's a fairly simple equation. And let's do the math on that. What's 850,000 divided by 96? And that equals a multiplier of 8.85 rounded. All right. So we'll do that and we'll turn that up. You know what? I'm gonna put this on another answer. 8.85 GRM rounded. Rounded. Color that red. And that's the answer. So let's go to the next one. Now, this one's actually about the value. So you got two of the equations, and this is, you got two of the components, so you can definitely come up with the value of the property. So the question is, if the GRM on a given property is 5.667 and is applied to the subject property that generates $7,600 monthly, what is the value of the subject property? Now we got to do some conversion on this one, but it's fairly easy to figure out, right? So what we do is we're going to take the gross rent multiplier times the annual rent equals the value, right? But we got to figure out what the annual rent is because it's in the monthly figure form. So the first step to do is step one is to, let me take capsules, is to figure out the annual rents. Right, annual gross rent, let's do that. Let's say that way. And so that equation is simple. It's going to be equation. Equation that equals, what is the monthly rent? We got a property that's spitting out $7,600 a month in rent, and then we know there's 12 months in a year, so we're going to take that times 12, and that's going to equal our number. That equals, let's see what it equals. 7,600 times 12. This property was producing $91,200 a year. That's a pretty nice property if they can manage it right. Right. So that's the equation per year of gross rents. All right. And then the next step would be now to take that and use our multiplier to convert it into a value. So the way you do that is you're going to take your multiplier times the gross rent, and that's going to equal the value of the subject property. But in this instance, that's just this one here. You would have had maybe 3 or 4 other sales that you're going to analyze to do this, right? And so this one's asking, this one's a little, it's not a bad question. It's just giving you the way that you figure out gross rents from the value from gross rent multipliers in the month or the annual income. But typically you would be having multiple properties and you would do an analysis on the sample, and then you come up with a gross rent multiplier, and then you take the subject's annual rents and you would multiply it by that. But this is just for, instructional purposes to get you to understand how to convert the gross rents and the gross rents and a multiplier into a value. So the equation for this is going to be, we have our multiplier. We know what the rents are. That's 91,200 times our multiplier of 5.667. And that's going to equal a number, and that's the value of this property. A little bit less than the last property, but still it's a pretty attractive investment property. Times 5.667. And that's a $516,830 property. Again, that's $516,830 property rounded. And that's the answer to the question. So the answer is All right. So that's the answer to that question. So now in the first one, we had to figure out the gross rent multiplier. The second one, we had to figure out what the second one we had to figure out what the value of the property is. And so this third one is probably going to have us figure out what the monthly rents are. Right. And so in this one, it says Justin and his brother own a property valued at $900,000. Right. Calculate the gross rents if the multiplier is the GRM is 8.25. All right, so that's going to be a very easy question, and we're just going to take the $900,000 and divide it by the gross rent by the multiplier. We're going to come up with the gross rents. This is probably one of the easier ones. So the equation is income equals value divided by the multiplier. Okay, so let's fill it in. So we don't know what the income is, so we'll just put, well, we won't do that yet. Well, we're just what we're figuring out. So the value is 900,000. And now we're going to take that and we're going to divide that, right, by the multiplier of 8.25. Right, and so that equals a number. So what is that? 900,000 divided by 8.25. And that property is producing almost over $109,000 a year. So the answer is $109,090. And let's just round that to $100. Round it to the nearest 100. Okay. And so the answer here would be rounded. And that's it. So this is the answer. These are very, 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 if you can understand the format and you can understand the way that they're asked you to get to these questions, these are pretty, I don't like saying simple because it's simple to me and it may be a little bit more challenging to some people, but if you practice this enough, it'll become second nature in what they're asking you to do, and you know how to get to it. And that's really what this test is about, is just repetition, repetition, repetition. And it'll get you to your desired outcome of passing the test. Because once you go through the process of just, getting yourself to a point where you're doing these questions in a certain order, when you get to a question on the test, hopefully they look similar. And, even if they don't look similar, you know how to set the problem up to be able to get the most accurate answer out of it. So I'm going to post this video now, and I wish you ladies good luck. And I'll let you know how you did on the test. And again, if this is cloudy to anybody, please get me, email me, and I'll make sure I can get with you and go over some of this stuff. So that's it. You ladies have a great night, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.